The drums beat softly under the grey morning sky in Umuaka village, April 17, 1998. The villagers stood in silence, gathered around a freshly dug grave beside the great Iroko tree. The air was heavy. Even the birds had stopped singing. Inside the golden coffin lay Ngozi, the beloved wife of Chief Obinna, the richest man in the village. She was only 28, kind-hearted, and known by everyone for her gentle smile and helping hands. They said she had died suddenly in her sleep. The chief priest had blessed her body. The women had washed her. The coffin had been sealed. Now, the time had come to return her to the earth. Chief Obinna stood beside the grave, his eyes hidden behind dark glasses. His face was stiff, not sorrowful, not weeping, only cold. The elders began the burial chants. 2 strong men stepped forward to lower the coffin. But then, from deep inside the coffin, a soft thud was heard. The men froze. The priest looked up. A murmur passed through the crowd. "Did you hear that?" whispered Mama Chika, clutching her wrapper tightly. Then came another sound, a faint gasp. Someone screamed. Another dropped a calabash. Chief Obinna shouted quickly, "Silence. It is the wind. Do not bring confusion to this sacred ground." But Chika, a young farmer standing close to the coffin, frowned. He stepped closer and knelt down, pressing his ear against the golden lid. The crowd watched with wide eyes. And then, Chika leapt back in shock. "She's alive. I heard her voice. She said, 'Help me.'" The people gasped. Some fell to their knees, calling on the gods. Obinna stepped back, panic flashing in his eyes. "No. It cannot be. She is gone. Do not open it." But the villagers ignored him. They shouted, "Open it. Open it now." 2 men rushed forward, breaking the seals. They lifted the heavy lid. And there, to everyone's horror, Ngozi's eyes fluttered open. Her lips moved weakly. "Help me." The crowd screamed. Some ran. Some cried. Others knelt, crossing themselves. The priest trembled. "By the gods, she breathes." Ngozi coughed, air rushing back into her lungs. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered again, "Please, don't bury me. Obinna tried to kill me." The words hung in the air like thunder. Obinna's knees shook. His lips trembled. The villagers turned toward him, their faces filled with confusion and anger. Before anyone could question him, Ngozi's eyes rolled back. She went limp again, half-conscious. The people rushed to carry her away. But as they lifted the coffin, a small black charm wrapped in red cloth rolled out from beneath it, still burning with dark smoke. The priest screamed, "This is no ordinary death. This is witchcraft." The crowd gasped again. All eyes turned to Chief Obinna. He stepped backward, fear on his face. "It is not mine. I know nothing about it." But the charm had his name carved on it. Women began to wail. Men murmured, "The gods will not sleep. Evil must answer." And as they carried Ngozi away toward the shrine for cleansing, thunder roared in the distance though the sky was clear. The gods had spoken. The truth was about to break through the darkness. But how did it come to this? How could a husband plot such evil against the woman who once shared his bed? The story, my friend, began months before this day, when love turned into greed, and a home became a battlefield of secrets. It started in December 1997, during the dusty Harmattan season, when the wind carried whispers of doom across Umuaka village. Ngozi was full of life then, laughing in the marketplace, helping widows, teaching children songs under the mango tree. The people loved her. She was known for her kindness and her beauty, her heart soft as palm wine. But her husband, Chief Obinna, though rich and powerful, had grown cold. The once loving man had changed. He spent nights in the city, drinking and returning home with strange bruises. He no longer smiled at Ngozi. He no longer prayed with her. One night, she asked softly, "My husband, why do you no longer look at me with love? What have I done to you?" He turned away, muttering, "A man's heart is his own. Do not ask questions that will bring sorrow." But sorrow came all the same. Ngozi began to notice things, secret visitors, whispered conversations, a small black pouch hidden beneath the bed. Fear filled her heart. And one cold night, she knelt before the gods and prayed, "If there is evil in my home, reveal it before it swallows me." The gods heard her prayer. But their answer would come with pain. Because in the shadows, Obina's plan was already in motion. And one deadly night, when Ngozi drank the herbal tonic he gave her, her world went dark. By morning, her breath was gone, and her body lay still. The village mourned. They called it sudden death. But the gods were watching. They would not allow the innocent to be buried alive. That is how, on that cold April morning, the coffin trembled, and the dead spoke. And as the villagers carried her away, a loud voice shouted from behind. "Look! The charm! It's moving on its own." The crowd screamed and scattered in fear. And there, in the red dust, the charm began to burn brighter, spelling out a name that would change everything. Obinna. The charm hissed in the dust, its smoke curling like a serpent toward the sky. The crowd scattered, some screaming, others clutching their wrappers tight against their bodies. Even the elders stepped back in fear, whispering old prayers to keep away evil spirits. But the priest, Papa Nana, stood firm. His staff struck the ground 3 times. "The gods have spoken," he thundered. "No secret can hide from the eyes of the ancestors. Whoever placed this charm has danced with death itself." All eyes turned to Chief Obinna. He tried to speak, but his voice broke. Sweat poured down his face. I know nothing about this," he shouted. "Do not accuse me falsely before the gods." The people murmured among themselves. "If he is innocent, why does he shake like a leaf?" one woman whispered. Another answered, "The gods know the truth. No one escapes their judgment." Meanwhile, Ngozi was carried into Papa Nana's shrine, a small mud house painted with white chalk and red clay. She lay on a mat, breathing weakly. Her skin was pale, her lips dry, her eyes half open. The priest sprinkled sacred water on her forehead and chanted, "Spirits of our fathers, bring back her strength. Let truth be revealed." The crowd waited outside, whispering, praying. The wind blew stronger. The sky darkened though it was only midday. Obinna stood apart, his hands trembling. In his heart, fear roared like thunder. He had thought the poison would end it quickly, quietly, that no one would ever know. He had planned everything, the fake doctor, the burial, the mourning. He wanted her gone so he could take over her family's land and marry Adis, the woman he met in the city. But now the gods had turned against him. Inside the shrine, Ngozi's body began to shake. Her eyes rolled back. The priest bent low, chanting louder. "Ngozi, daughter of the soil, return from the shadow world. Speak your truth." Suddenly, she gasped and sat up with a cry. The people outside heard and rushed to the doorway. Her eyes were wide with fear. "They tried to bury me alive," she screamed. "Obinna gave me a drink. I felt my body grow cold. I heard voices. I could not move, but I could hear everything. They said I was dead." The crowd gasped. Women covered their mouths. Men looked at one another in shock. Papa Nana raised his staff. "You have heard it from her own mouth. The gods have uncovered evil in our midst." Obinna stumbled forward, shaking his head. "She lies. The poison must have confused her mind. I loved my wife. I would never harm her." But Ngozi turned her eyes on him, filled with pain. "You, my husband. I heard you whisper to that doctor in the night. You said, make it look natural. She must not wake again." The priest turned to the crowd. "This matter cannot be buried like her body. We will take her to the village council. The truth must be judged before all." The crowd agreed. They carried Ngozi carefully on a bamboo stretcher, the priest leading the way. Obinna followed behind, his mind spinning. He knew once the council heard, his name would be ruined, his wealth might be seized, and worse, the gods might curse him. As they reached the village square, drums beat to call the elders. One by one, the council arrived, Ngozi, the village head, and 5 elders with grey beards and sharp eyes. Ngozi was laid before them. The charm was placed beside her, still wrapped in red cloth, now cold but heavy with darkness. The chief elder spoke, "Tell us what happened, daughter." In a trembling voice, Ngozi told everything, how Obinna had grown distant, how he brought a strange herbalist, how she drank the tonic and fell into darkness, hearing whispers and footsteps but unable to move. She remembered Obinna's voice saying, "By dawn, it will be over." When she finished, silence filled the square. The only sound was the rustle of palm leaves in the wind. Then the elders turned to Obinna. "What do you have to say?" He stammered, "She was sick. I only called the herbalist to help her. I did not know the medicine would harm her. But Papa Nana lifted the charm high. This was buried under her coffin. It bears your name. Explain this." Obinna's mouth opened, but no words came. Sweat soaked his shirt. The villagers began to murmur louder now, anger growing like fire. "He wanted her dead. He wanted her land," someone shouted. "Let the gods judge him," cried another. Ngozi raised his hand for silence. "We will not rush. At sunset, we shall hold a cleansing ritual. If Obinna speaks truth, the gods will spare him. But if he lies, his own mouth will curse him." Obinna's heart pounded. He knew the ritual could expose him. He had seen men fall dead under its power. He thought of running, of escaping into the forest. But the eyes of the whole village were on him. The sun began to sink behind the hills. The drummers prepared their rhythms. The priest lit a sacred fire. Ngozi sat nearby, wrapped in a white cloth, her face pale but determined. Papa Nana stepped forward, his voice deep and strong. "When the moon rises, the gods will demand truth. Obinna, you will stand before the sacred flame and swear by your ancestors that you are innocent." Obinna's hands shook. His eyes darted toward the forest path. The drums beat louder. The fire burned brighter. The people formed a circle. Then, just as the ritual was about to begin, a loud cry came from the edge of the crowd. A young boy ran forward, waving something in his hand. "Look," he shouted. "I found this behind Chief Obinna's house." The crowd turned. In the boy's hand was a small clay pot, filled with strange black powder and a folded paper marked with Ngozi's name. The people gasped. Papa Nana stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "This is not medicine," he said slowly. "This is death charm." The drums stopped. The air grew heavy. Obinna froze. His legs trembled. The truth was closing in. The priest raised the pot high toward the sky. "The gods have given us another sign," he shouted. And as the crowd roared, the clay pot began to shake violently in his hand. And then it exploded into flames. The fire burst from the clay pot with a loud crack, lighting up the village square like lightning from the gods. Sparks scattered across the red earth, and people screamed, stumbling backward in fear. Mothers pulled their children close. The drummers dropped their sticks. The flames rose high, twisting in the air, and for a brief moment, it formed the shape, the shadow of a man holding a knife. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the fire vanished, leaving behind black ashes that spelled one word in the dust, Obinna. The crowd cried out in horror. The gods have spoken. Papa Nana thundered, raising his staff. The spirit of truth has revealed the evil among us. Obinna fell to his knees, trembling. No, no, this is witchcraft. Someone is trying to destroy me. But the people would not listen. Confess your sin, shouted one man. Tell the truth before the gods strike you dead, cried another. Ngozi, the chief elder, stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm but heavy. Obinna, you stand before your people and your ancestors. A charm was found beneath your wife's coffin. A pot of death medicine was found behind your house. Twice the gods have called your name in fire. Will you still lie? Obinna's lips quivered. Sweat ran down his face. His eyes darted left and right, searching for escape, but the circle of villagers had closed around him. There was nowhere to run. I did it for love, he suddenly cried, his voice breaking. I did it because of Adis. The crowd gasped. Women screamed. Men shouted curses. Papa Nana raised his hand. Speak, sinner. The truth must pour out before the moon sets. Obinna bowed his head, his voice trembling. Adis, the woman from the city. I met her when I went to Onitsha for trade. She told me the gods destined us to be together. She said Ngozi's spirit was blocking my blessings. She brought the herbalist. She told me if Ngozi died, my wealth would double. I was blind. I was foolish. I gave the order. The crowd roared in anger. He killed his wife for another woman. Abomination. Evil man. Ngozi, still weak but awake, began to cry softly. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she looked at the man she once called husband. Her heart ached with pain and disbelief. Obinna, she whispered, you took vows before the gods. You swore to love me till death. Yet you chose to bring death with your own hands. Obinna tried to reach for her, but the priest struck his staff against the ground. Do not touch her. You have brought shame upon your ancestors and cursed your lineage. Ngozi turned to the council. This is not a matter for men alone. The gods must decide his fate. Papa Nana nodded. Tonight, we will take him to the sacred grove. If his heart is truly repentant, the grove will spare him. But if he still harbors deceit, the grove will claim his soul. The crowd murmured in agreement. The sacred grove was feared by all, a place where truth and lies could not coexist. Many had entered with hidden sins and never returned. Two strong men seized Obinna by the arms. His legs shook as they dragged him toward the grove at the edge of the forest. The path was dark, the air cold. Crickets chirped, and an owl hooted, as if warning of doom. Behind them, the villagers followed with torches, their faces lit by the flickering flames. Ngozi was carried gently on a stretcher, determined to see justice with her own eyes. As they reached the grove, the trees seemed to whisper. The priest drew a circle in the dirt, marked with white chalk and palm leaves. In the center, he placed three objects, the charm, the ashes from the pot, and a bowl of sacred water. He pointed his staff at Obinna. Kneel. Obinna dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. I beg the gods for mercy, he cried. I was blinded by greed and lies. I did not know my heart had turned so dark. Papa Nana's voice was solemn. Drink from the bowl of truth. If your heart is pure, the water will cleanse you. If it is not, your tongue will burn. Obinna lifted the bowl with shaking hands. The villagers watched in silence. He drank deeply. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, he screamed in pain, clutching his throat. Smoke rose from his mouth. He fell to the ground, rolling in the dust, crying out for help. The crowd gasped. Women wailed. The priest lifted his hands toward the sky. The gods have judged. His heart is unclean. Obina's cries turned to groans. He collapsed, trembling, his eyes wide with terror. Then, from the shadows of the grove, a cold wind blew. A whispering voice echoed through the trees, low and haunting, "Blood calls for blood." The torches flickered. The villagers stepped back in fear. Even Papa Nana's face grew pale. Obina lifted his head weakly. "Forgive me," he whispered, before falling face first into the dirt. Silence fell. Then the priest knelt beside him and placed a hand on his chest. He nodded slowly. "He lives, but barely. The gods have spared him, for now." Ngozi spoke, his voice deep. "He will be taken to the shrine of repentance. For 7 days, he will fast, pray, and confess. On the 8th day, the gods will decide if he lives or dies." The crowd murmured, half in relief, half in fear. The grove had spoken, but judgment was not yet complete. As they carried Obina away, a clap of thunder rolled across the sky though no clouds were seen. Ngozi watched silently, her heart heavy. The man she loved had become a stranger, his soul trapped between mercy and doom. She whispered to herself, "If the gods spare him, will I ever find peace again?" But before she could finish, a sudden shout came from behind. One of the men carrying the charm stumbled and fell. The red cloth had torn open, and inside, hidden beneath the charm, was a small folded paper. Papa Nana picked it up and unfolded it slowly. His eyes widened. "What is it?" asked Ngozi. The priest's voice trembled. "It is not only Obina, another name is written here. Another has a hand in this evil." The crowd gasped. "Who?" Papa Nana raised the paper to the firelight. The name glowed in the orange flames. Adis. The name Adis glowed in the flickering torchlight like a message carved by the gods themselves. The crowd gasped, their voices rising in confusion and anger. "Adis," someone shouted. "She lives in Onitsha," cried another. Was she not the woman Chief Obina brought gifts for, murmured an old widow. Papa Nana's face grew grave as he held up the paper. "The gods have revealed another hand in this wickedness. This evil was not born by one soul alone." Ngozi's eyes widened. The memory rushed back, those nights when Obina would return home smelling of strange perfumes, whispering in his sleep, "Adis, my queen." Now, it all made sense. The priest turned to the elders. "We cannot end this judgment until all who conspired are brought before the gods. Evil must not be half punished. We must bring Adis to face her deeds." Ngozi nodded slowly. "Then it is decided. At dawn, we send messengers to Onitsha. She will be brought here to answer for her part in this abomination." The villagers agreed, though whispers of fear passed through the crowd. Onitsha was far, and Adis was said to live among powerful men, traders, and those who dealt with dark charms. Obina lay weak and pale on the mat beside the sacred circle, his throat still burning from the water of truth. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Adis, she promised me glory. She said the gods would bless me if I gave her Ngozi's life. She lied. She lied to me." Papa Nana looked down at him coldly. "The devil always lies, Obina. But the hand that obeys is not innocent." As the villagers dispersed back to the square, the sky rumbled again. Thunder rolled though the stars were bright. The gods were restless. That night, Ngozi lay awake inside the shrine, staring at the ceiling. The air was cold. Her body ached, her heart torn. She could still hear Obina's confession echoing in her mind. "He wanted me dead," she whispered to herself. "The man I cooked for, prayed for, loved with all my heart." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Why, Obina? Was my love not enough?" Outside, the drums had gone silent, but the village was awake with whispers. Some said Obina should be cast out. Others said the gods might still have mercy. But all agreed that Adis's name had brought new fear into the air. At dawn, 3 men chosen by the elders, Chika, Ifeanyi, and Okoro, set out on the road to Onitsha. They carried the elder's staff and a god of sacred water, signs of authority that no one in their right mind would ignore. As they left, Papa Nana called after them, "Go with the eyes of the gods. Bring her back in chains if she resists." The journey took a full day. They walked through forests and dusty roads, crossing streams and farmlands. When they reached Onitsha by sunset, the city was alive with noise, traders shouting, drummers beating, hawkers selling roasted corn. They asked around for Adis, describing her beauty, her red headscarves, her gold bracelets. The traders pointed them to a big compound near the riverbank. When they arrived, they saw her sitting under a mango tree, dressed in a fine blue wrapper, her eyes sharp, her lips painted red. She looked like a queen among servants. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice calm but proud. Chika stepped forward, holding up the elder's staff. "We come from Umuoka village. The gods have called your name. You must return with us to face judgment." Adi's eyes narrowed. "Judgment? For what?" "For plotting death," said Ifeanyi. "For joining Chief Obinna in the attempt to kill his wife, Ngozi." Adis laughed, a cold, mocking laugh. "Ngozi? That foolish village girl. She still lives." "Yes," said Okoro. "The gods saved her. And now they have revealed your name." Adi's smile faded. Her eyes darkened. "Tell your gods I do not answer to them." But before she could rise, the sacred god began to shake in Chika's hands. It glowed with a soft light. The 3 men froze in fear. Adi stepped back. "What is this?" Chika lifted the god high. "The gods have spoken. You cannot run." Suddenly, a strong wind swept through the compound, scattering leaves and sand. Adi's eyes widened. Her strength left her knees. She fell to the ground, trembling. "I will go," she whispered. "Take me to Umuoka." The villagers of Onitsha watched as the men led her away. Some crossed themselves. Others whispered, "She has walked with spirits. Now the gods call her home." By the time they reached Umuoka, it was the second night. The village gathered once more in the square, torches burning, drums beating softly. Papa Nana stood in his white robe, holding the staff of truth. "Bring her forward." Adis walked slowly into the circle, her head bowed. Obinna sat nearby, weak and silent, his eyes filled with shame. The priest spoke, his voice echoing in the night. "Adis, daughter of the riverbank, you stand accused of conspiring with Obinna to shed innocent blood. Speak truth before the gods." Adis lifted her head. Her eyes glistened with tears. "I did not act alone," she said quietly. "There is one more." The crowd gasped. "Who?" the priest demanded. Adis looked toward the shadows beyond the firelight. "The herbalist, Dr. Kolu, who gave the poison. He told me it would only make her sleep. He took the money. He knew everything." The priest's staff struck the ground. "Then he, too, must be brought." But before they could move, a scream tore through the night from the edge of the forest. A messenger came running, his face pale, his voice shaking. "Dr. Kolu is dead," he cried. "We found him this evening, his body twisted like a tree branch, eyes wide open." The crowd roared in fear. Women wailed. Men stepped back, crossing themselves. Papa Nana raised his staff. "The gods have claimed their own." His spirit could not escape the truth. Adis fell to her knees, sobbing. "I never meant for this to happen. I thought it was only a charm to make Ngozi sick. I didn't know it would bring death." But the priest's voice thundered like the sky, "Ignorance does not wash blood from the hands. You and Obinna have invited the wrath of the ancestors." The ground trembled beneath their feet. Torches flickered. A cold wind swept across the square, And a voice like thunder whispered through the air. The river must taste their tears. The people screamed and scattered in fear. Papa Nana turned to the elders, his face grave. The gods demand sacrifice. At dawn, they must be taken to the river of truth. Ngozi clutched her wrapper, trembling. The river, what will it do to them? The priest looked into the dark sky. If their repentance is true, the river will cleanse them. But if lies still hide in their hearts? He paused, eyes heavy. The river will swallow them whole. The night was heavy with silence after the voice of the gods faded into the wind. The villagers stood frozen, eyes wide with fear. Even the crickets had gone quiet, as though the earth itself waited for dawn. Papa Nana's voice broke the silence, deep and solemn. The gods have spoken. At sunrise, we go to the river Ik, the river of truth. Let no one interfere, for the gods will decide who shall live and who shall die. The crowd slowly dispersed, whispering among themselves. Some pitied Obina and Adis, others spat on the ground, saying, they deserve whatever the river gives them. Ngozi was led back to the shrine by Mama Chika and 2 other women. She walked slowly, her body still weak, her heart heavy with pain. Inside the hut, the air was cool and smelled of palm oil and herbs. Mama Chika sat beside her and held her hand. Eneni, you must be strong, she said softly. You have walked through death and returned. The gods are with you. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. But my heart is torn, Mama. Obina was the man I loved, the father of the children I dreamed to have. How did love turn into poison? Mama Chika sighed deeply. The heart of man is a deep river. Sometimes what we see on the surface hides what lives beneath. Ngozi wiped her tears. Will the river kill him? The old woman shook her head. Only the gods know. But remember, child, the river does not take the innocent. Outside, Obina sat in chains beside the sacred fire. His head hung low, his face pale. He had not spoken since the prophecy. His mind was filled with regret, fear, and the image of Ngozi's tearful eyes. Adi sat a few feet away, shivering though the night was warm. She muttered prayers to herself, clutching the beads on her wrist. I never wanted death, she whispered. I only wanted love and wealth. Papa Nana watched them both from the doorway of the shrine. His face was stern, his eyes full of sorrow. The gods do not sleep, he said under his breath. The greedy always feed the earth before their time. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, the drums began to beat softly, slow, steady, sorrowful. The whole village gathered at the edge of the path leading to River Ik. The air was cool and misty. The scent of wet earth filled their nostrils. At the front of the procession walked Papa Nana, holding the staff of truth. Behind him came the elders, then Obina and Adis, their hands bound with palm fronds, symbols of judgment. Ngozi walked behind them, her face veiled, silent as a spirit. The villagers followed, humming old songs of justice and mercy. Some carried calabashes of water, others held white cloths to cover the eyes of the condemned. The journey took nearly an hour. The forest was thick, the path narrow. Birds cried in the distance. The sound of rushing water grew louder as they approached the riverbank. River Ik flowed wide and strong, its surface glittering under the rising sun. Mist danced above it, and the air was cool and strange. Papa Nana raised his staff. We stand before the river of truth. Ancestors of Umwaka, hear our voices. We bring 2 souls who have spilled evil into the land. If they speak true repentance, let the river wash their sins. If they hide lies in their hearts, let the river take them. The crowd answered as one, so let it be. The priest turned to Obina first. Step forward, son of Okoro. Speak your truth before the river. Obina stepped shakily to the edge, his feet sinking into the wet sand. He looked into the rushing water and saw his reflection, pale, hollow, haunted. Tears rolled down his face. "O great river, I confess my evil. I betrayed my wife, the woman who loved me. I listened to the whispers of greed and turned my heart to darkness. I poisoned her for wealth and false promises. I beg the gods to forgive me. I beg Ngozi to forgive me." His voice broke as he fell to his knees, sobbing. Papa Nana nodded solemnly. "Rise. Step into the water." Obinna waded slowly into the river until it reached his waist. The water swirled around him, cold and fast. For a moment, it was still. Then suddenly, the water began to glow faintly, shimmering like silver under the sun. The people gasped. Papa Nana lifted his staff. "The gods have seen his heart. His repentance is true. The river spares him." A loud sigh of relief spread through the crowd. Obinna fell forward, bowing low in the water. "Thank you, gods. Thank you." He was led out, weak but alive. Then the priest turned to Addis. "Now you, daughter of the riverbank. Speak your truth." Addis' lips trembled. She tried to speak, but fear gripped her throat. The people murmured. The priest raised his voice, "Speak now, before the river grows angry." Finally, she cried out, "I confess. I used charms to deceive Obinna. I wanted his wealth, his name. I told lies to destroy Ngozi. I thought it was love, but it was greed. Forgive me." Her tears fell onto the sand as she stepped into the water. The river seemed calm at first, but then its current grew stronger. The mist thickened. The people watched in silence as the water rose around her waist, then her shoulders. She cried out in fear. "Help me. The water pulls me." Papa Nana lifted his staff. "If your repentance is true, the river will release you." But the water roared louder, swirling like a storm. Addis screamed as the current dragged her deeper. The villagers shouted, some rushing forward, but Papa Nana raised his hand. "No one must interfere." Addis' cry echoed through the forest one last time before she vanished beneath the waves. The river grew calm again, silent as the grave. Women wailed. Men bowed their heads. The priest lowered his staff. "The gods have judged." Her heart was not clean. Ngozi closed her eyes, whispering a prayer. May her soul find peace beyond. Obinna fell to the ground, trembling, tears streaming down his face. "This is my doing. Her blood cries from the river because of me." Papa Nana placed a hand on his shoulder. "The gods have spared you, not for your sake, but for the sake of the woman you wronged. Use your life to mend what you have broken." The villagers began their journey home in silence, leaving behind the river that now held Addis' spirit. But as they walked, a sudden clap of thunder rolled across the clear sky. The ground shook slightly beneath their feet. Papa Nana looked back at the river. In the swirling mist, for just a moment, he saw a shadowed, the faint image of Addis, her eyes filled with sorrow, pointing toward the village. His heart grew heavy. He whispered to himself, "The gods are not yet done. More truth lies hidden." The village of Umoka woke to a strange stillness the morning after the river judgment. The air was heavy, and the birds did not sing. Even the goats bleated softly as though they sensed something unseen walking among them. By now, everyone knew that Addis had been swallowed by River Ik, while Obinna had been spared. Some said the gods had shown mercy, others whispered that Addis' restless spirit would not sleep. Inside the shrine, Papa Nana sat before the sacred fire, eyes closed, listening to the whispers of the ancestors. The flames flickered and danced, and suddenly a low voice echoed through the hot, deep, mournful, and full of warning. "The sin is not washed. The curse walks still. The blood of greed cries out from the earth." Papa Nana's eyes snapped open. His heart pounded. He rose quickly and stepped outside. The sky was overcast though the sun was high. A cold breeze swept through the village, bending the trees. Something was not finished. Meanwhile, Ngozi sat under the old udara tree near her hut, her face calm but her heart full of confusion. She had seen her husband humbled before the gods, yet the wound in her heart refused to close. Obinna approached slowly, barefoot, wearing a simple wrapper. His face looked older, his eyes sunken. He knelt before her without a word. Ngozi looked at him silently. For a long moment, only the rustling of leaves filled the air. Finally, she spoke softly, "You stood at my grave, Obinna. You poured sand over my coffin. You called me dead." Obinna bowed his head, tears falling on the dust. "I am not worthy to stand before you, Ngozi. My heart was dark, my hands filthy with greed. I let lies guide me, and I nearly lost the one who loved me most. I beg you, forgive me." Ngozi sighed, her eyes moist. "Forgiveness is not mine alone to give. You must also seek it from the gods, and from your own soul." Obinna nodded, trembling. "I will. Every day I breathe will be a day of repentance." Papa Nana appeared just then, his robe fluttering in the wind. "Come, both of you," he said. "There is still a shadow among us. The gods have spoken again." The couple followed him to the shrine, where the elders were already gathered. The priest lifted his staff. "The gods say the curse is not broken," he announced. "There is another who shares in this evil, one whose hands carried the poison to your lips, Ngozi." The villagers murmured in fear. Obinna's face went pale. "But Adiz is gone. Dr. Kolu is dead, who else remains?" Papa Nana struck his staff on the ground. "The servant. The one who brought you your evening meal that night." Obinna gasped. "You mean Chioma?" Ngozi's eyes widened. Chioma had been her handmaid for years, a quiet, loyal girl, always smiling, always respectful. Could she truly have been part of the plot? "Bring her," the priest commanded. Messengers ran through the village. Soon they returned with Chioma, trembling and weeping. "My father, please," she cried, falling to her knees. "I only did as I was told. Chief Obinna gave me the food and said it was blessed by the priest. I did not know it was poison." Papa Nana's eyes narrowed. "Do not lie before the gods. You must speak the full truth." Chioma shook her head, sobbing. "It is true, my father. I swear by my mother's grave, I did not know. Only later, when Adiz came to me with money, did I realize something was wrong. I wanted to speak, but I was afraid." Ngozi's heart softened. She remembered the girl's loyalty over the years. "Papa, I believe her," she said quietly. Fear can silence even the innocent. But Papa Nana's face remained grave. "Fear does not wash away guilt. The gods demand cleansing. All who touch the path of death must walk through the fire of truth." He turned to the elders. "Prepare the ritual of cleansing. At sunset, they shall all walk through the sacred flames, the test of purity. If the gods find any darkness still hiding, the fire will burn them. If they are pure, the fire will leave them unharmed." The crowd gasped. The ritual of cleansing had not been performed in 30 years. It was said to summon the ancestors themselves. As the sun began to set, the villagers gathered in the square. A great fire burned at the center, tall and fierce, its flames leaping into the sky. Drums beat slowly, their rhythm echoing like a heartbeat. Papa Nana raised his staff and called out, "Let those who seek cleansing step forward." Obinna stepped forward first, his face calm but his hands trembling. Behind him came Chioma, her eyes wide with fear. Ngozi watched silently, her heart pounding. The priest lifted a gourd of sacred oil and poured it over their heads. "By the will of the gods, by the eyes of the ancestors, walk through the flame and be made clean." Obinna looked to the heavens, whispered a prayer, and stepped into the fire. The crowd held its breath. The flames surrounded him, flickering around his body, but did not burn him. He walked through slowly, emerging on the other side untouched. A cry of awe rose from the people. Next came Chioma. She closed her eyes and stepped into the blaze. For a moment, the flames rose high, glowing bright red. She screamed, but then the fire dimmed, and she stumbled out, unharmed but trembling. Papa Nana raised his hands. The gods have spared them. Their hearts are now clean. The villagers rejoiced, singing songs of mercy. But as the drums beat louder, a sudden gust of wind swept through the square, extinguishing the fire in a single breath. The sky darkened. Thunder roared again though no rain fell. The crowd grew silent. Then, from the far edge of the forest, came a sound, a woman's voice, distant and sorrowful, singing an ancient song of the river. Ngozi froze. Her heart thudded. That voice, she whispered. It's Adis. Obina's eyes widened in terror. She's dead. How can she sing? The priest's face turned pale. The spirit of the river walks tonight. The singing grew louder, echoing through the trees, haunting and mournful. The villagers clutched one another in fear as a mist began to creep across the square, cold and white, carrying the scent of the river. Papa Nana lifted his staff, shouting above the wind, "Ancestors! What do you seek? Speak your will." But only the song answered, weaving through the mist like a ghostly hand. Ngozi clutched Obina's arm. She has not found peace. Something binds her soul to this world. The priest's eyes blazed with fire. Then we must go to the river once more. Only there shall the final truth be revealed. And as the villagers watched in dread, the mist thickened, and through it, a figure slowly began to take shape, draped in water and light, with eyes that glowed like the moon. It was Adis. And she was not at rest. The mist thickened around the village square, swirling like a living thing. The drums had gone silent. Children clung to their mothers. Men stood frozen, eyes wide, hearts pounding. The air grew colder, and the scent of the river hung heavy, damp, and strange. Through the fog, a shape began to form, first a shadow, then a figure cloaked in flowing water. Her hair floated around her head like dark clouds, and her eyes glowed a pale, haunting blue. It was Adis. The villagers gasped. Some screamed. Others fell to their knees, pressing their faces into the earth. Papa Nana stepped forward, raising his staff, though his hands trembled. Spirit of Adis, he called, voice strong though his heart quaked, you were judged by the river and taken into its depths. Why do you walk among the living? Adis' voice echoed, soft and sorrowful, like wind through hollow trees. I have not come to harm, but to reveal the truth that still sleeps. My spirit cannot rest because a deeper evil remains unspoken. The crowd murmured in terror. Obina stumbled backward, eyes wide. Deeper evil. What truth? Adis turned her glowing gaze toward him. You think the poison came only from my hands, but I was a pawn in a greater game. The river showed me, after it swallowed me. Ngozi clutched her wrapper tightly. Who, Adis? Who still hides in the shadows? Adis' voice trembled like ripples on water. The poison, the greed, it was born in the house of Obina, yes, but whispered by one who called herself friend. The people turned, confused. Papa Nana frowned. Friend. Speak plainly, spirit. Adis lifted a shimmering hand, pointing toward the back of the crowd. Slowly, the mist parted, and all eyes turned to where Mama Neka, Ngozi's childhood friend, stood frozen. The crowd gasped. Mama Neka. Ngozi whispered, disbelief in her voice. You visited me every morning. You wept at my grave. You comforted me. Mama Neka's face turned pale as ashes. She shook her head, stepping back. No, no, it is a lie. I loved you, Ngozi. I never. Adi's voice thundered like waves crashing. You sold the secret to Adis for silver. You told her of Obina's weakness, his thirst for power, his fears. You said, use his hunger, and you will have his heart. You are the root that fed the vine of death. The villagers erupted in shouts. Some cursed Mama Neka, others stepped away in fear. Papa Nana's voice boomed, silencing them. Woman, the spirit accuses you before the eyes of the gods. Speak truth now, for the ancestors are listening. Mama Neka trembled, tears spilling down her face. I only wanted to help her. I thought if Obina married Adis, she would bless me with wealth. My farm was dying, my children were hungry. I did not know it would lead to death. Adi's spirit wept, water falling from her eyes like rain. Your greed bets mine, Neka. You whispered temptation into my ear. I thought I was using Obina, but it was you who planted the seed. Papa Nana struck his staff into the ground, and thunder cracked overhead. The circle of evil is complete. All who drank from this cup must face the river's judgment. Mama Neka fell to her knees, crying out, Mercy, my father. Mercy, Ngozi. I have lost everything already. Must I also lose my life? Ngozi's heart broke at the sight. You were my sister in spirit. Why did you not come to me? Why did you choose deceit over truth? Mama Neka buried her face in her hands. Because I feared poverty more than shame. Papa Nana raised his staff. Then tonight, before the moon sets, you must go with us to River Ik. The spirit will lead the way. The gods will decide if you are worthy to breathe another dawn. The villagers followed in silence as the spirit of Adis floated ahead, her glow lighting the forest path. The drums began again, slow and heavy, echoing like a heartbeat in the darkness. The river was waiting, its surface still, like a mirror to the sky. The mist clung to the trees, whispering in the wind. Papa Nana stepped forward. River Ik, hear us once more. We bring the last soul who has hidden in shadow. Judge her, O great spirit, and bring peace to the restless. Mama Neka stood trembling at the edge of the water. If the gods will have me, let them take me. If they will spare me, I shall live in truth. Adi's spirit turned toward her. Step into the river. Speak your heart. With a sob, Mama Neka waded into the cold water. It reached her knees, then her waist. She lifted her hands to the sky. I confess. I was blinded by hunger. I traded friendship for silver. I cursed the house of my sister. I am sorry. The river stirred. Ripples spread across its surface, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Papa Nana raised his staff. If her repentance is true, let the river wash her clean. The water swirled around Mama Neka, rising higher. The crowd held its breath. She cried out once, then the current lifted her gently and set her back on the bank. She fell to her knees, coughing, but alive. The river grew still again. Adi's spirit smiled faintly, her glow softening. Now, the circle is broken. My soul is free. She turned to Ngozi, tears of light falling from her eyes. Forgive me, sister. I was lost, but your mercy has opened the path. Ngozi stepped forward, whispering, Go in peace, Adis. May the ancestors welcome you. Slowly, Adis' form began to fade, her body turning to mist and water. Her voice echoed one last time across the river. Let love guide where greed once walked. Let truth live in Umuaka. And then she was gone. The villagers wept, some for sorrow, some for relief. The wind grew warm again, the trees still, and the sky cleared to reveal a bright moon shining above the river. Papa Nana turned to the people. The gods have spoken. The curse is lifted. Umuaka shall know peace once more. Obina knelt before Ngozi, his eyes filled with tears. I do not deserve your kindness, but I will spend my life repaying it. Ngozi touched his shoulder gently. Let your deeds speak louder than your regret. Mama Neka bowed low before them both. I will serve your household until my final breath, if you will let me. Ngozi nodded softly. We all have walked through fire. Let us rise together. As dawn broke over the river, golden light spilling across the water, the people of Umuoka sang songs of forgiveness and new beginnings. The evil that once hid in the shadows was gone. But far away, beyond the hills, a traveler watched the sunrise, a stranger carrying a pouch of the same deadly poison, whispering to himself. There are other villages, and other hearts to tempt. The story was not yet finished. The sun rose bright and golden over Umuoka, casting long rays across the fields that once felt cursed. The air smelled fresher, the birds sang again, and the villagers whispered that the gods had finally smiled on them. The river was calm now, its waters clear like glass, no longer carrying the sorrowful echoes of Adi's voice. But though peace had returned to the village, Papa Nana's spirit was restless. He had seen the shadow in his dream, the traveler with the deadly pouch. The gods had shown him a warning: evil never dies, it only moves. That morning, he gathered the elders beneath the great Iroko tree. The branches swayed gently, and the leaves whispered like old spirits. My brothers, Papa Nana said solemnly, the river has spoken peace, but I fear another storm walks toward us. I saw a stranger in my dream, carrying the same poison that nearly destroyed us. His feet are turned toward Umuoka. The elders exchanged worried glances. What should we do? asked Ismosu. Should we close our gates? Papa Nana shook his head. No man can close the road of destiny. But we can prepare the hearts of our people. Greed is the soil in which evil grows. We must teach them truth before lies take root again. Meanwhile, Ngozi sat before her hut, pounding yam for the midday meal. Her movements were steady but thoughtful. Life was slowly returning to normal, yet something in her heart still felt unfinished. Obinna worked in the fields, stripped of his riches, living now as a humble man. The villagers watched him with curiosity. Some pitied him, others respected him for staying to rebuild what he had broken. He never complained, never raised his voice. Every morning, he went to the shrine to pour libation and thank the gods for mercy. One afternoon, as the sun began to set, a stranger walked into the village. He wore a long brown cloak and carried a leather bag slung across his back. His face was hidden by a wide hat, but his voice was smooth like honey when he greeted the people. Peace be upon Umuoka, he said with a bow. I am Chaik, a traveler and herbalist. I bring medicines and charms for those in need. The women gathered around, curious. He showed them small bottles filled with colorful powders, and leaves wrapped in cloth. For wealth, he said, for love, for long life. Some of the villagers murmured in awe. He is gifted, they said. Maybe the gods have sent him to bless us. But when Papa Nana heard of his arrival, his heart grew heavy. He went to meet the stranger at the square. Young man, he said sternly, our village has no need of charms. The gods have already healed us. Take your journey elsewhere. Chaik smiled politely. Wise priest, I am but a humble man. My herbs are not for harm but for healing. Surely a people who have suffered deserve protection. The old priest studied him carefully. The traveler's eyes were sharp, too sharp, like those of a snake hidden in grass. Papa Nana turned to the crowd. Do not take what your spirit does not understand. Remember the poison that nearly destroyed us. The villagers murmured and stepped back, unsure. Chaik's smile faltered for a moment, but he bowed. As you wish, old father. I mean no harm. That night, as the village slept, the traveler sat alone beneath the Iroko tree, whispering into the darkness. From his pouch, he took a small vial filled with a glowing green liquid. "The priest is strong," he muttered. "But men are weak. It takes only one greedy heart to open the door." And indeed, far away in her hut, Mama Neka tossed and turned in her sleep. Though she had confessed and been spared, her heart still wrestled with guilt and shame. The villagers looked at her differently now. Her farm was still barren. Her children still hungry. When she rose before dawn to fetch water, she found the traveler sitting by the path. "Good morning, mother," he said gently. "I see sorrow in your eyes. You seek forgiveness, but the world gives you hunger." She frowned. "I deserve what I suffer. I betrayed my friend. The gods spared me, but the people will not." Chike smiled softly. "The gods are merciful. They send help in many forms. Take this powder, burn it at night and pray. Your farm will flourish again. Your name will shine once more." Mama Neka hesitated. "What do you want in return?" "Only a promise," Chike whispered. "When the time comes, you will help me gather the people. I will teach them how to call blessings." Her heart wavered. She wanted to say no, but the hunger in her soul was louder than her wisdom. She took the vial. "Thank you," she said quietly. He smiled. "The gods see you." The next morning, strange things began to happen. Mama Neka's yam vine sprouted fresh green leaves overnight. Her chickens laid double eggs. The people murmured, amazed. "Perhaps the stranger is truly blessed," they said. "Perhaps Papa Nana is too old to see new ways." By the third day, more villagers visited Chike. They asked for charms of fortune, love, and power. The traveler gave freely, smiling as his influence spread like smoke through dry grass. But Papa Nana knew. He could feel it, the old shadow creeping back into Umuaka's heart. He went to Ngozi and Obina. "My children," he said gravely, "the test of your repentance has come. You must stand with me, for the darkness we thought buried may rise again." Ngozi frowned. "Do you think this traveler carries evil?" "I do not think," Papa Nana said. "I know. His eyes are not of this world." Obina clenched his fist. "Then we will face him together." That night, as the moon rose full and bright, the people gathered at the square, summoned by the traveler. He stood before them, arms raised. "Tonight," he said, "I will open the gate of blessings. Whoever drinks from this god shall never know poverty again." The crowd cheered. But Papa Nana stepped forward, staff glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Stop," he thundered. "The gods have shown me your heart, traveler. That god holds the same poison that nearly ended us. You are the shadow of the one called Dr. Kolo." The crowd gasped. Chike's smile twisted into a sneer. His eyes glowed green like the poison itself. "Yes," he hissed. "And tonight, Umuaka shall finish what was begun." He raised the god high, and the liquid inside began to boil, releasing a dark mist that spread across the square. The people screamed, stumbling back as the air filled with the smell of rot. Papa Nana lifted his staff, chanting ancient words. Light burst from its tip, clashing with the darkness. The battle between light and shadow began. Ngozi grabbed Obina's hand, eyes wide with terror. "Father, what must we do?" Papa Nana shouted above the storm, "The river. We must call upon River Ik once more. Only its spirit can drown this evil." And as thunder cracked and the ground trembled, the people of Umuaka fled toward the river, the travelers' laughter echoing behind them. "You cannot kill what greed has birthed." The river roared in the distance, waiting.